Jiwan stood in the massive assembly hall of Apex Prime Station. The hall was so large that she could barely see the ceiling above her head. Around her stood hundreds of other cadets. They came from dozens of different worlds across the galaxy. Some were tall, some were short, some had scales, others had fur. A few glowed softly in the dim light. She kept her face calm and her hands at her sides. Inside, her heart beat fast. This was the Galactic Military Academy. Every species that belonged to the Alliance sent their best young people here. Jiwan had scored in the top 5% of all human applicants. Her test scores were perfect. Her physical trials were completed without a single failure. Yet standing here, surrounded by aliens who towered over her or possessed natural weapons like claws and fangs, she felt small. A door at the front of the hall opened. Through it walked a Vexari commander. His name was Corvex, according to the display that appeared above the stage. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall. His body was covered in dark green scales that caught the light. His eyes were yellow and cold. When he walked, each footstep echoed through the silent hall. "Cadets," Corvex said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "You have been selected from billions. You represent the finest your worlds can offer. You should feel proud." G1 noticed how still everyone had become. Even the cadets who had been whispering fell silent. "However," Corvex continued, "being selected is not the same as succeeding. Over the next standard year, you will undergo training in 17 different environments. Some will be in simulation chambers. Others will be in controlled facilities. But one training program is different from all the others." A holographic image appeared behind Corvex. It showed a blue and green planet slowly rotating. Jiwan recognized it immediately. Earth. Her breath caught in her throat. "Earth," Corvex said, and the word seemed to carry weight. "The human homeworld. This planet has been designated as the Alliance's ultimate survival training ground. Every cadet, regardless of species, must complete a minimum of 4 weeks on Earth's surface." Murmurs rippled through the assembled cadets. Jiwan heard fear in those voices. She had heard the stories, too. Earth was known throughout the galaxy as a death world, a place where everything seemed designed to kill anything that lived there. Corvex raised one clawed hand. The murmurs stopped. "I will be direct with you. 70% of cadets fail Earth training in the first week. They request emergency extraction. Some suffer injuries. A few require extensive medical treatment. Earth is hostile to nearly every form of life in this galaxy except the species that evolved there." The hologram changed. Now it showed images of Earth's surface. Thick forests where trees grew so close together that no light reached the ground. Mountains that stretched higher than most species had ever seen. Oceans that covered most of the planet, their depths unknown and filled with creatures of enormous size. "Earth's gravity is 0.98 standard," Corvex explained. "For most of you, this will feel like carrying an extra 50% of your body weight at all times. The atmosphere contains 21% oxygen, which is toxic in high concentrations to 17 of the species represented in this room. The planet's weather is chaotic and unpredictable. Temperature swings of 30 degrees in a single day are common. Water falls from the sky with enough force to injure unprotected skin." Jiwan watched the images change. She saw lightning splitting the sky, waves as tall as buildings crashing against rocks, wind bending trees until they nearly touched the ground. "The wildlife," Corvex said, and his voice became even more serious, "has evolved in constant competition. Predators exist that can kill a Draken warrior in seconds. Insects carry diseases that can fell a krill soldier in days. Plants produce toxins that have no known antidotes for most species. Even the microscopic life is aggressive. Human bacteria and viruses are so effective at invasion that you will require daily medication just to prevent infection." A cadet near Jiwan made a sound of distress. She glanced over and saw a being covered in white fur. Its large eyes were wide with fear. Its hands trembled. "You may wonder," Corvex said, "why the Alliance chooses such a dangerous location for training. The answer is simple. In war, you will face hostile environments. You will face conditions your species never evolved to handle. If you cannot survive Earth for 4 weeks, you cannot survive the chaos of real combat. Earth breaks the weak. It reveals the strong." The hologram disappeared. Corvex looked across the assembled cadets. His yellow eyes seemed to see each one individually. "Earth training begins in 3 standard weeks. You will be divided into groups of 20. Each group will be sent to a different region of the planet. You will carry minimal supplies. You will build your own shelters. You will find your own food and water. Human instructors will observe you, but they will not help unless your life is in immediate danger. Ji-won felt something twist in her stomach. Not fear exactly. Something else. Something that felt almost like anticipation. Some of you are wondering about the humans among you, Korvac said. He gestured toward the human cadets scattered through the hall. There were perhaps 30 of them among the 300 total cadets. You may think they have an advantage. You would be wrong. Humans who grow up in space colonies or on terraformed worlds find Earth just as hostile as you will. Their bodies have adapted to easier environments. Earth does not care about your species. It only cares about your strength. The commander was quiet for a moment. Then he said, dismissed. Prepare yourselves. Earth is waiting. The cadets began to move, filing out of the hall in groups. Ji-won walked with the flow of bodies. Around her, she heard conversations in dozens of languages. The translator implant in her ear worked. Overtime to convert them all. I heard that. Earth's apex predators hunt in packs, one voice said. My cousin attempted Earth. Training last year, another voice replied. He lasted 3 days before requesting extraction. He still has nightmares. 70% failure rate. Those are terrible odds. Ji-won reached her assigned quarters and entered. The room was small but clean. 2 bunks, 2 storage lockers, 1 small window showing the stars outside. Her roommate was already there. The being was enormous, easily 2.5 meters tall. Its body was covered in gray plates that looked like natural armor. 4 arms extended from its torso. Its head was roughly triangular with 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows. I am Thex, the being said in a rumbling voice. Krill warrior caste. You are human? Yes, Ji-won said. My name is Ji-won. Thex studied her for a long moment. You are small, he finally said. How does a species as small as yours survive on such a terrible world? Ji-won set her bag on the empty bunk. She thought about the question. She thought about the stories her grandmother had told her. Stories about Earth, the planet Ji-won had never seen but carried in her blood. We adapt, she said simply. Thex made a sound that might have been laughter or concern. Ji-won could not tell which. We will see, the Krill said. We will all see. That night, Ji-won lay in her bunk and stared at the ceiling. In 3 weeks, she would set foot on Earth for the first time. The planet her ancestors had left 5 generations ago. The planet that had shaped humanity into what it was. She wondered if Korvac was right. She wondered if Earth would break her like it broke so many others. Then she thought about her childhood on Station Hanseong, where life was never easy and nothing ever worked quite right. She thought about the scars she already carried and the lessons she had already learned. Maybe Earth would try to break her. But Ji-won had been breaking and rebuilding herself her whole life. She closed her eyes and slept. The transport ship shuddered as it entered Earth's atmosphere. Ji-won gripped the armrests of her seat and tried to keep her breathing steady. Around her, other cadets were not doing as well. Several were making sounds of distress. One had already been sick into the provided bag. This is normal? A voice asked. Ji-won turned to see a cadet with blue skin and large eyes. The being's name was Rixel from a water world called Thanara. This violence? It's just atmospheric entry, Ji-won said. The ship is pushing through air. It creates friction. Air should not fight back, Rixel said. The cadet's voice was shaking. Air should be gentle. The ship shook again, harder this time. Somewhere behind Ji-won, someone screamed. She understood their fear. Most species in the galaxy came from worlds with thin atmospheres or no atmosphere at all. Earth's thick blanket of air was alien to them. Violent to them. The human pilot's voice came through the speakers. We're approaching the landing zone. Korean Peninsula, mountain region. Weather is partly cloudy. Temperature is 18 degrees Celsius. Humidity is 75%. Light wind from the east. Prepare for landing. Thex was sitting across from Ji-won. The big Krill's armor plates had turned a darker gray. Ji-won had learned this meant Thex was nervous. Humidity, Thex said. What is humidity? Water in the air, Ji-won explained. Water does not belong in air, Thex replied. Water belongs in containers or on the ground. Ji-won almost smiled. Earth is a wet planet. Water is everywhere. The ship's landing gear deployed with a heavy thunk. Through the small windows, Ji-won caught her first real glimpse of Earth. Green. So much green. More shades of green than she had ever seen in her life. The forests below them looked like a living carpet that stretched to the horizon. Mountains rose in the distance, their peaks hidden in clouds. The ship touched down. The impact was gentle, but several cadets still cried out. They had never experienced a planetary landing before. Station-born like Jiwon, but unlike her, they had never craved something more. "Welcome to Earth," the pilot said. "Rear hatch opening in 30 seconds. I suggest you take a deep breath before you step out. The air here is different from what you're used to." The hatch began to open. Light flooded into the cargo area, brighter than the ship's interior lights. Jiwon squinted against it. Then the smell hit her. Earth smelled alive. She could smell plants and soil and water and 1,000 things she had no name for. It was overwhelming. "Move out," ordered a voice from outside. "Line up by your assigned groups," Jiwon stood. Her legs felt strange. Heavy. The gravity was pulling at her more strongly than the station's artificial gravity ever had. Each step required more effort. She saw other cadets struggling even more. A Draken representative, a reptilian species from a low-gravity world, collapsed after 3 steps. 2 human instructors had to help the being back to its feet. Jiwon walked down the ramp. Her boots touched earth for the first time. The ground felt solid in a way station floors never did. Real soil, real rock, billions of years old. The air was thick and hot. Each breath felt like drinking something instead of breathing something. Sweat immediately began to form on her skin. Her uniform, designed for climate-controlled environments, was already too warm. A man was waiting at the bottom of the ramp. He was human, probably in his 50s, with gray hair and a face marked by sun and wind. His name tag read Instructor Dae-jung. "Group 7, he called out. "Over here." Jiwon moved to join the group. Thex was there, looking uncomfortable. Nixel was there, the blue skin now showing a purple tint that suggested distress. There were 17 other cadets from a dozen different species. Dae-jung looked them over. His expression showed nothing. "I am Instructor Dae-jung. For the next 4 weeks, I will be your observer. Note that I said observer, not helper. I will not assist you unless you are dying. I will not give you advice unless you ask specific questions. My job is to watch and report whether you pass or fail." He gestured to the forest behind him. "We are in what humans call the Taebaek Mountains. This is a temperate forest zone. The temperature will range from 15 to 25 degrees Celsius during the day. At night, it may drop to 5 degrees. Rain is likely every 3 to 4 days. The forest contains several species of predator, including bears and wildcats. The streams contain clean water if you know how to find them. Edible plants exist if you know how to identify them." A cadet raised one of its 4 arms. "Will you teach us to identify safe plants?" "No," Dae-jung said. "That is your responsibility. You have been provided with basic survival guides on your data pads. You have been given emergency rations that will last 3 days. After that, you find your own food or you go hungry." "Any questions?" Silence. The cadets looked at each other. Ji-won could see fear on every face that had expressions she could read. "Then let's move," Dae-jung said. "Your base camp location is 3 kilometers that direction." He pointed into the forest. "I suggest you start walking before the afternoon heat gets worse. 3 kilometers. On a station, that would be an easy walk. But here, with Earth's gravity pressing down and the humid air making each breath an effort, 3 kilometers felt like 30. The group started walking. Within 10 minutes, half of them were struggling. A cadet with crystalline skin began to make a humming sound of distress. "The air is burning me," it said. "Too much oxygen. Too hot." Dae-jung simply watched and made notes on his datapad. Ji-won forced herself to keep moving. Her legs ached. Her back hurt. Her lungs felt like they were working twice as hard as normal. But she had felt worse. Station Hanseong had suffered a gravity fluctuation when she was 12. For 3 days, gravity had been set at 1.2 standard. 3 days of moving through thick air, of feeling like she weighed twice as much as she should. She had survived that. She could survive this. Thex was walking beside her. The krill's breathing was loud and labored. "How do humans live here?" Thex asked between breaths. "This gravity, this wet air, how?" "We're born here," Ji-won said. "Our bodies are made for this." "Your bodies must be made of iron," Thex replied. They walked for 2 hours. The 3 kilometers took much longer than it should have. Several cadets had to stop repeatedly to rest. One requested emergency extraction after an hour. Dae-jung called for a medical shuttle without comment. When they finally reached the base camp location, it was just a clearing in the forest. There were no buildings, no shelters, nothing but empty space surrounded by trees. This is home for 4 weeks, Daejung said. Build your shelters. Secure your supplies. Learn to survive. I'll be watching. Then he walked away and sat down on a fallen log at the edge of the clearing. He pulled out his data pad and ignored them. The cadets stood in the clearing, looking lost. Around them, the forest made sounds they had never heard. Bird calls, insect buzzes, wind in the leaves. Somewhere in the distance, something roared. It was a sound that spoke of teeth and hunger. Nixel started crying. The sound was high and painful. I want to go home, the cadet said. I want to leave. We've been here 4 hours, another cadet said. This one was covered in fur and had 6 legs. Only 4 hours. We have 4 weeks. Jiwon dropped her pack on the ground. Her shoulders ached where the straps had been. She looked around the clearing. Trees on all sides. A small stream visible through the undergrowth. The ground was covered in leaves and moss. The air smelled like growing things in decay. We need shelter first, she said, before night comes. You are not in command, said a cadet with red scales and a long tail. Why should we listen to you? Jiwon shrugged. Don't listen. But I'm building a shelter. Anyone who wants to help is welcome. She walked to the tree line and began gathering fallen branches. Her hands hurt. Her back hurt. Everything hurt. But she kept moving. After a moment, Thex joined her. Then another cadet. Then another. By nightfall, they had built 3 crude shelters. They were not beautiful. They would not have passed any inspection. But they would keep the rain off their heads. As darkness fell, the temperature dropped. Jiwon had been warm all day. Now she was cold. The forest became even louder at night. Things moved in the darkness beyond their clearing, eyes reflected in the dim light of their emergency lamps. I hate this place, Thex said quietly. I hate it. Jiwon looked up at the sky. Through breaks in the tree cover, she could see stars. Real stars not seen through station windows. They were beautiful. It's just the first day, she said. How many days until 70% of us quit? Thex asked. Jiwon didn't have an answer. She lay down in the shelter she had built and closed her eyes. Every muscle in her body screamed. Tomorrow would be worse, and the day after would be worse still. But she would wake up tomorrow, and she would keep moving. Because that was what you did. You kept moving until you couldn't anymore. And even then you found a way to take one more step. Outside the shelter, something howled. It was a sound like nothing Jiwon had ever heard. Wild, free, dangerous. She smiled in the darkness. Earth was trying to scare her. Let it try. Fear was just another thing to adapt to. 3 weeks on Earth had changed everyone. Jiwon could see it in the way the surviving cadets moved. Slower, more careful. Like prey animals always watching for predators. Of the 20 cadets who had started in Group 7, only 12 remained. 8 had requested extraction. 2 for medical reasons. 6 because they simply could not endure anymore. Jiwon understood why. Earth did not rest. Earth did not show mercy. Every day brought new challenges. The rain that fell was not the gentle mist of a climate-controlled station. It was heavy drops that hit like small stones. The heat during the day made the air feel solid. The cold at night bit through their thin sleeping bags. Food was scarce. The rations had run out after 3 days as promised. What they found in the forest was never enough. She had lost weight. They all had. Her uniform hung loose on her frame. Her face felt thinner. Her hands showed cuts and scars from building shelters and gathering food. But she was still standing. Still moving. Still refusing to quit. Today was a navigation exercise. Daejung had given them coordinates 5 kilometers away. They had to reach the location, collect a marker, and return before nightfall. Simple in theory. On Earth, nothing was simple. The sky was dark with clouds. The air tasted like rain. Storm coming, Daejung said. He looked at the sky with experienced eyes. Big one. You should consider postponing the exercise. Jiwon looked at Thex. The big krill had adapted better than most. Thex's armor plates were showing stress cracks from the constant humidity, but the warrior kept going. What do you think? Jiwon asked. We have postponed twice already, Thex said. Because of weather. Because of wildlife. Because of injury. If we postpone again, we fail the exercise. Failure means extra time on Earth. That decided it. None of them wanted extra time on Earth. We go, Jiwon said. Nixel shook a blue-skinned head. This is foolish. The sky looks angry. The sky always looks angry on this planet, said another cadet. This one was named Vexa, a being with 4 arms and gray skin. I agree with Jiwon and Thex, we go. 8 of them went. The other 4 stayed at camp. Daejung watched them leave with an expression Jiwon could not read. Was it concern, approval, disappointment? She had learned that human expressions were harder to read than she had thought. The forest was different today. The usual sounds were missing. No bird calls, no insect buzzes. The animals knew the storm was coming. They had found shelter. Only the cadets were foolish enough to be out. They had been walking for an hour when the first drops fell. Then the sky opened. Water poured down in sheets. It was impossible to see more than a few meters ahead. The ground became mud in minutes. The small stream they had been following became a raging river. We should turn back, Nixel shouted over the roar of the rain. This is too dangerous. We're halfway there, Jiwon shouted back. Turning back now means we walked for nothing, they kept going. The rain was cold. It soaked through their uniforms in seconds. Jiwon's hair was plastered to her head. Water ran down her face and into her eyes. Each step was a battle against the mud trying to hold her boots. Lightning split the sky. Thunder followed immediately after. The sound was so loud it felt like a physical blow. Vexa stumbled and fell. Jiwon and Thex pulled the cadet back to their feet. I hate this planet, Thex yelled. I truly hate it. They reached the coordinates after another hour. The marker was there, a simple metal post with a scanner plate. Each cadet had to scan their ID against it to prove they had made the journey. They took turns, water streaming off their bodies. Now we go back, Jiwon said. Fast as we can. Before this gets worse, if anything, the storm intensified on the return journey. The wind picked up. Trees swayed and bent. Branches fell around them. The sound was deafening. Rain and wind and thunder and the crack of breaking wood. They were crossing a swollen stream when disaster struck. The water was waist-deep and moving fast. They had formed a chain, holding on to each other for stability. Thex was in the middle of the stream when a large branch came rushing down the current. It hit the krill's legs and swept them out from under. Thex went under. The water was brown with mud. Jiwon could not see where the krill had gone. The chain broke. Cadets scrambled for the shore. Thex! Jiwon screamed. She looked downstream. There, a gray shape tumbling in the current, being pulled away. Thex's armor, designed to protect against weapons, was now a weight dragging the warrior down to drown. Jiwon did not think. There was no time to think. She dove into the stream. The current grabbed her immediately. It was stronger than she expected. Stronger than anything she had felt before. It pulled her under. Water filled her nose and mouth. She could not tell which way was up. Her training kicked in. Stay calm, don't panic. Panic kills faster than water. She let the current carry her, but angled her body toward the surface. Her head broke through. She gasped for air. Saw Thex ahead of her, still tumbling. Still sinking, Jiwon swam. Every stroke was a fight. The current wanted to pull her under. Wanted to dash her against rocks. Wanted to fill her lungs with water. She ignored it. Ignored the pain. Ignored the voice in her head screaming at her to save herself. She reached Thex, grabbed one of the krill's forearms. The weight almost pulled her under. Thex's armor was like an anchor, but Jiwon held on. She kicked for the shore, made no progress. The current was too strong, there had to be a way. She could not fight the current directly, so she stopped trying. Instead, she angled toward the shore gradually. Let the current help her instead of fighting it. It was a technique she had read about, something called a fairy angle. Use the water's power against itself, it worked. Slowly. So slowly. But they moved toward the shore. Meter by meter. Thex was not fighting. Was the krill unconscious? Dead? Jiwon could not tell. She just kept kicking. Kept pulling. Kept refusing to let go. Her feet touched bottom. She nearly cried with relief. She dragged Thex into shallow water. Pulled the warrior onto the muddy shore. Thex was not breathing. Jiwon's hands shook as she began emergency breathing procedures. She had learned them in basic training but never used them. Press on the chest. 30 times. Then 2 breaths into the mouth. Repeat, keep repeating. Don't stop, come on, she whispered. Come on, Thex, don't quit. Not after 3 weeks. Not after everything. Water came out of Thex's mouth. The krill coughed, gasped. Those 6 eyes opened. Jiwon. Thex's voice was weak. What happened? You fell in the river, Jiwon said. She was shaking. From cold, from exhaustion, from fear that was only now catching up to her. You almost drowned, Thex sat up slowly. Looked at Jiwan. Looked at the raging stream behind them. You pulled me out? Yes, I weigh 3 times what you weigh. My armor makes me heavier. I know. Thex was quiet for a long moment. Why risk yourself? Jiwan thought about it. Because you're my friend. Because we're a team. Because that's what you do. The sound of engines cut through the storm. A medical shuttle appeared overhead. It landed nearby. Daejung jumped out, followed by 2 medics. They ran toward Thex and Jiwan. The others called for extraction, Daejung said. He looked at Thex. Are you injured? I breathe, Thex said. I live. That is enough. The medics began their examination. Daejung turned to Jiwan. You went into the water after him? Yes, sir. That was dangerous, foolish. You could have died. Yes, sir. Daejung studied her face. Water was still streaming down it. She was shivering violently now. Her lips were probably blue. She felt cold down to her bones. But she met his gaze steadily. It was also brave, Daejung said quietly. Very brave. Get in the shuttle. Both of you. You're done for today. The shuttle lifted off. Through the window, Jiwan could see the forest below. The storm was still raging. Trees bending. Water flowing everywhere. Earth in all its fury. Thex leaned back against the shuttle wall. You saved my life, the Krill said. I owe you a life debt. This is a sacred thing among my people. You don't owe me anything, Jiwan said. We're friends. On my world, friends are pleasant. They share food and stories. They are not expected to risk death for each other. Thex looked at Jiwan with all 6 eyes. Is this normal for humans? To risk death for friends? Jiwan thought about it. About stories she had heard. About human history. About the thing that made humanity different. Sometimes, she said. When it matters, yes. The shuttle reached the base camp. The other cadets were waiting. When they saw Thex and Jiwan alive and walking, several of them made sounds of relief. Nixel approached with a blanket. We thought you were dead, the blue-skinned cadet said. Both of you. Not dead, Thex said. Thanks to Jiwan. That night, after hot food and dry clothes, the cadets sat around their fire. The storm had passed. The sky was clearing. Stars were appearing. One of the cadets turned to Jiwan. How did you do it? The cadet asked. Pull Thex from the water? With the current that strong? With the weight? Jiwan looked at her hands. They were marked with cuts and bruises. She thought about Station Hanseong, about growing up where everything was always breaking, where you learned to fix things or you died, where weakness meant the end. I just didn't let go, she said. I held on. That's all? That's all? Vexa laughed. The sound was bitter. You say it like it's simple. Like anyone could do it. Anyone could, Jiwan said. If they chose not to quit. If they chose to hold on no matter what. That's not special. That's just a choice. Daejung was sitting at the edge of the group. He had been quiet all evening. Now the fire crackled quietly in the center of the camp. It was the last night before they would leave Earth, 4 weeks, 28 days, 672 hours. Every minute had felt like an eternity. Every hour had brought new pain. But somehow they had survived. 10 cadets out of the original 20 remained. 10 who had refused to quit. Jiwan sat close to the fire. The nights were still cold, even after weeks of acclimatization. Her body had changed. She could feel it. Her muscles were harder. Her skin was darker from the sun. The cuts and scratches had healed into small scars. She was not the same person who had stepped off the transport ship 4 weeks ago. Thex sat beside her. The Krill's armor plates showed permanent damage from the humidity and rough living. They would need to be treated when they returned to the station. But Thex did not seem to care. The warrior was smiling, or at least making the expression that passed for a smile among the Krill. Tomorrow we leave, Thex said. Tomorrow we escape this terrible, wonderful planet. Wonderful? Nixel asked from across the fire. The blue-skinned cadet had survived, though barely. Nixel had lost the most weight, had cried the most, had come closest to quitting. But Nixel was still here. You call this place wonderful? Yes, Thex said. Because we survived it. Because we beat it. That makes it wonderful, Vexa laughed. The four-armed cadet had become stronger over the weeks. More confident. We didn't beat Earth. Earth allowed us to survive. There's a difference. Then why are humans so... Another cadet paused, searching for words. So normal. If this planet is so terrible, humans should be warriors, giants, monsters, but you humans look soft. Look weak. How do you survive here? All eyes turned to Jiwon. She had become the unofficial leader of the group. Not because she had asked for it. Not because she was the strongest. But because she never quit. Because when others fell, she helped them up. Because she kept moving forward. Jiwon thought about the question. She had asked herself the same thing many times over the past weeks. We're not stronger than you, she said slowly. Physically, most species in the galaxy are stronger than humans, faster, better armed. Better armored. You're right about that. Then how? Nixel pressed. How do humans live here? It makes no sense. Jiwon poked the fire with a stick. Sparks flew up into the night sky. We adapt, she said. That's what humans do. We adapt to anything. We learn, we change. We find ways to survive that don't require being the biggest or the strongest. All species adapt, Thek said. That is how evolution works. Not like humans, Jiwon replied. She was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Most species evolve to fit their environment perfectly. They become specialists. But humans are generalists. We can live almost anywhere. Frozen wastelands, burning deserts, dense jungles, high mountains, deep underwater. We're not perfect for any of those places, but we're good enough for all of them. Vexa leaned forward. Good enough? You survived here for millions of years being just good enough? Yes, Jiwon said, because good enough is better than perfect. Perfect means you only work in one environment. Good enough means you work in any environment. Earth taught us that. Earth forced us to learn that. The fire popped. Jiwon watched the flames dance. She thought about what to say next. About whether to tell them the truth. About her own story. I need to tell you something, she said. I'm not from Earth. I was born on Station Hanseong. I've never been to Earth before this training. My parents were born in space. My grandparents were born in space. I am 5 generations removed from Earth. The cadet stared at her. Thex's armor plates shifted, a sign of surprise. But you survived so well, Thex said. Better than any of us. We thought you had an advantage. That your body knew this place. Jiwon shook her head. My body knew this place as badly as yours. Worse, maybe. I grew up in 0.6 standard gravity. Coming to Earth was like suddenly weighing twice as much. Every step hurt. Every breath was work. I had no advantage. Then how? Nixel asked quietly. How did you do it? Jiwon looked at her hands. They were scarred now, calloused, strong. Station Hansung was old, badly maintained. Nothing worked properly. The gravity fluctuated. Sometimes it would jump to 1.2 standard for days. Sometimes it would drop to 0.3. The air recyclers broke down constantly. We would have to ration oxygen. The temperature control was terrible. One day it would be 30 degrees. The next day it would be 5 degrees. She paused. The memories were not pleasant. The hydroponic farms failed 3 times while I was growing up. Each time food became scarce. We had to ration. Sometimes I was hungry for weeks, and there was a plague. When I was 10, a mutated bacteria that the medical systems couldn't handle. It killed a lot of people. I got sick. I almost died. I survived, but I was weak for a year afterward. The camp was silent. Even the forest seemed to be listening. My parents taught me something, Jiwon continued. They said that safety is an illusion. Comfort is temporary. The only thing you can rely on is yourself, your ability to endure, your refusal to quit. So they made me strong. Not physically strong. Mentally strong. They taught me that pain is temporary, that hunger passes, that cold can be endured, that fear is just a feeling, not a fact. Thex made a sound deep in the krill's throat. That is a hard childhood. A cruel childhood. Yes, Jiwon agreed. It was. I hated it sometimes. I envied my friends who lived on better stations. Stations where everything worked. Where food was plentiful. Where the gravity never changed. But now? She looked around at the forest, at the stars above, at Earth. Now I understand. Station Hansong prepared me for this. For Earth, for chaos, for surviving when nothing is certain. Daijung had been sitting at the edge of the firelight. Now he moved closer. His weathered face was thoughtful. That's the secret, he said. That's what Earth teaches. Not strength. Not speed. not power. Earth teaches adaptability. Earth teaches that you survive by learning, by changing, by refusing to break. He looked at each cadet in turn. You all came from paradise worlds, controlled environments, places where life is easy, where food appears when you want it, where temperature is always comfortable, where danger is minimized. Those places make you weak. Not physically weak, mentally weak. They teach you that the universe is safe, that you will be protected, that someone will always save you. Dae-jung pointed at the forest around them. Earth teaches the opposite. Earth teaches that the universe is dangerous, that no one will save you, that you save yourself or you die. And that lesson, that hard, painful lesson, is more valuable than any weapon, more valuable than any technology. Because it prepares you for reality. Vexa spoke slowly. So humans are not stronger than us. Humans are just more prepared for chaos? Exactly, Dae-jung said. In a controlled environment, humans are average. In chaos, humans excel, because chaos is where we come from. Chaos is where we learn to survive. Ji-won thought about that, thought about the past 4 weeks, about the rain and the heat and the cold and the hunger, about the river trying to drown her and Thex, about every morning when she woke up hurting and had to choose to keep going. Earth didn't make me tough, she said quietly. I was already tough. From Station Hanseong, from growing up where nothing was certain, Earth just showed me that I was. Thex reached over with one of those forearms and placed a hand on Ji-won's shoulder. The gesture was gentle despite the krill's size. You saved my life. And now I understand why you could. Not because you are human, not because you are from Earth, but because you learned to survive before you ever came here. You learned the most important lesson already. What lesson? Nixel asked. That quitting is not an option, Thex said. That you hold on even when it hurts, even when it would be easier to let go. That is what Ji-won taught me. In the river, when I was drowning, I felt her hands holding my arm. I felt her pulling me, and I felt her refusing to let go, even when the current tried to pull us both under. Even when keeping hold of me might have killed her, she refused to let go. The krill's 6 eyes were bright in the firelight. That is not about being human. That is about being strong in here. Thex touched the center of their chest where a krill's primary heart was located. And that kind of strength can be learned, can be taught. Earth teaches it. Hard lives teach it. Pain teaches it. But it can be learned. The fire was burning low. Someone added more wood. The flames grew higher. Ji-won watched them dance. She thought about Station Hanseong, about her parents, about every hard day of her childhood. She had resented it then, wished for an easier life. But now she understood. Her parents had not been cruel. They had been preparing her for this, for the universe as it really was. Dangerous, uncertain, unforgiving. Thank you, she said quietly to the fire, to her parents wherever they were, to Station Hanseong, to every hard day that had made her into someone who could survive Earth. What are you thankful for? Vexa asked. Ji-won smiled. For being broken before I came here, for being hurt, for being hungry, for learning that I could survive those things. Because if I hadn't learned those lessons already, Earth would have broken me, would have destroyed me. But I came here already cracked, already scarred, already strong. So Earth couldn't break what was already broken. It could only make. The assembly hall at Apex Prime looked different now. Ji-won stood in formation with the other graduates. The hall was the same. The high ceiling, the bright lights, the rows of seats filled with cadets and instructors. But everything felt different. She felt different. 4 months had passed since Earth. 4 months of additional training, combat exercises, space operations, diplomatic protocols, tactical planning. All of it felt easier after Earth. When you had survived a planet trying to kill you, classroom exercises did not seem hard. The ceremony was beginning. Commander Korvac stood at the podium. His scales gleamed under the lights. His yellow eyes swept across the assembled graduates. Today we recognize those who have completed the most demanding training program in the Alliance, he began. Of the 300 cadets who began this program, 197 stand before me now. 103 found the training too demanding. They have returned to their home worlds with honor. There is no shame in discovering your limits. Ji-won stood straight. Her uniform was crisp and clean. The Earth Campaign ribbon was pinned to her chest. A simple band of blue and green. Many species would not recognize it, but those who knew, those who understood would see that ribbon and know, this person survived Earth. This person did not quit. But you, Corvex continued, gesturing to the graduates, you discovered that your limits were further than you thought. You pushed beyond comfort, beyond safety, beyond what seemed possible. And in doing so, you became something more than you were. The commander touched a control. A holographic display appeared behind him. It showed statistics, numbers, facts. Of the 300 who started, 297 attempted Earth training. 128 failed within the first week. 43 more failed in the second week. 21 in the third week. 11 in the fourth week. That left 94 who completed the full 4 weeks. Of those 94, 47 completed the program successfully and are graduating today. 47. Ji-Won thought about that number, about how many had quit, how many had been broken, how many had discovered that Earth was too much for them. She did not judge them. Earth was harsh. Earth was unforgiving. Not everyone could survive it. Not everyone should have to. These 47, Corvex said, represent 21 different species. They have proven that survival is not about biology, not about natural advantages. They have proven that survival is about will, about determination, about the refusal to quit even when quitting would be logical. The commander paused. His eyes found Ji-Won in the formation. Cadet Ji-Won, step forward. Ji-Won's heart jumped. This was not expected. This was not part of the planned ceremony. She stepped out of formation, walked to the front of the hall, stood before Corvex. The commander towered over her. She had to look up to meet his eyes. Cadet Ji-Won, Corvex said loudly enough for everyone to hear. You have been selected to represent your graduating class. The instructors and I discussed this at length. We chose you not because you had the highest test scores, not because you were the strongest or the fastest. We chose you because of what you did in the river. Ji-Won felt her face grow warm. She did not like attention, did not want recognition. She had just done what needed to be done. You risked your life to save another cadet, Corvex continued. Despite the danger, despite the logical certainty that attempting rescue might result in both deaths, you chose to act, and through your actions, you demonstrated what it means to be part of the Alliance. We do not abandon our own. We do not leave anyone behind, even when the cost is high, even when the risk is great. The commander held out a small box. This is the Alliance Star. It is awarded for exceptional bravery, for actions that embody our highest ideals. You are the youngest recipient in the history of the award. Wear it with pride. Ji-Won took the box. Inside was a medal, a simple star shape, heavy in her hand. Real metal, real weight. Sir, she said quietly, I only did what anyone should do. No, Corvex replied. You did what anyone should do, but most do not. That is why it matters. That is why we recognize it. He gestured to the assembled graduates. Cadet Ji-Won will now address you. This is traditional for the class representative. Listen well to her words. Ji-Won turned to face the others. Hundreds of eyes looked back at her. Alien eyes, human eyes. So many different species, so many different backgrounds. But they all shared one thing now. They had survived the training. They had earned their place here. She thought about what to say, about what mattered, about what they needed to hear. I have a scar, Ji-Won began. She touched the side of her neck. Right here. I got it during a training exercise in the second week on Earth. I fell. A sharp branch cut me. It bled badly. Daejong patched it up, told me it would scar. He was right. She lowered her hand. When I was packing to come here, my mother saw this scar. She asked me about it. I told her the story. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said something I did not understand at the time. She said, good, every scar is a lesson. A reminder. Carry it with you. Ji-Won looked across the assembled graduates. I understand now what she meant. This scar reminds me of Earth, of pain, of bleeding, of fear. But it also reminds me that I survived, that I healed, that what wounded me did not destroy me. And that makes all the difference. She took a breath. They warned us that Earth would break us. Commander Corvex stood where I'm standing now and told us that 70% would fail. That Earth was hostile. That Earth was dangerous. That Earth would test us in ways we could not imagine. He was right about all of that. Earth did test us. Earth did hurt us. For many of us, Earth broke us. She paused. But being broken and being destroyed are different things. I learned that on Station Hansong, where I grew up. The station was always breaking. Gravity systems, air recyclers, water pumps, power generators. Everything broke constantly. And every time something broke, we had two choices: give up or fix it. Quit or adapt. Die or survive. Ji-won touched her neck again. The scar. My family chose to survive. We learned that broken things can be repaired, that broken people can heal. That breaking is not the end. It's just change. Sometimes painful change, sometimes difficult change, but still just change. She let her hand fall. Earth broke me in the first week. I woke up one morning and could not move. Every muscle hurt. Every joint ached. I lay in my shelter and wanted to quit. Wanted to call for extraction. Wanted to go home to comfort and safety and easy living. The pain was too much. The exhaustion was too much. Earth was too much. The hall was silent. Everyone was listening. But then I thought about my parents, about Station Hansong, about all the times I had hurt before and survived, about all the times I had been broken before and healed. And I realized something important. Earth was not breaking me for the first time. Earth was just breaking me again. And I already knew how to survive being broken. I had done it before. I could do it again. Ji-won's voice grew stronger. So I got up. I moved, I hurt. But I moved anyway. And the next day I got up again. And the day after. And every day for 4 weeks. Each day was hard. Some days were harder than others. But each day I chose to keep going. Chose not to quit. Chose to be broken but not destroyed. She looked at Thex in the formation. The big krill was watching her with all 6 eyes. In the 3rd week, my friend Thex almost drowned. I went into the river to pull him out. People have called that brave. Called it heroic. But it was not. It was just refusing to let go. The current tried to pull us both under, tried to drown us both, and every second I had a choice. Hold on or let go. Keep fighting or give up. Live or die. Ji-won's hands clenched at her sides. I held on. Not because I'm special. Not because I'm human. Not because I'm strong. I held on because I learned on Station Hansong that you always hold on. Always, no matter what. You hold on until you cannot hold anymore. And then you hold on a little longer. That's not heroism. That's just stubbornness. Just refusal to quit. Just the most basic survival instinct there is. She looked at Commander Corvex. You said Earth would break us. You were right. Earth broke all of us who survived it. But Earth did not destroy us. And that's the lesson. That's what Earth teaches. Breaking is not the end. Breaking is just the beginning. What matters is what you do after you break. Do you quit? Do you give up? Or do you heal? Do you adapt? Do you become something stronger than you were before? Ji-won touched the Earth campaign ribbon on her chest. I came to Earth broken, scarred, damaged by a hard childhood on a failing station. I thought that made me weak. Thought it made me less than the cadets who came from paradise worlds. From easy lives. From places where nothing ever hurt. But I was wrong. Being broken before Earth made me stronger. Because I already knew how to survive being broken. I already knew that pain passes. That wounds heal. That you can fall and still get up. She looked across the graduates again. We all survived Earth. But we did not survive because we were unbreakable. We survived because we were already broken. Earth could not break what was already in pieces. It could only forge those pieces into something new. Something stronger. Something that understood its own strength. Ji-won's voice dropped. Became quieter. More personal. When my mother saw my scar, she said it was good. I understand now.